Hi, Paul Gorney. Chicago is such a great city. Lived here all my life, sold real estate here for 30 years. I will tell you that if the weather, number one, if the weather was summer weather here, or even close to summer weather, the majority of the year, I think everyone would want to live in Chicago. It'd be completely overcrowded. The winter definitely thins things out. And then you're just ready to burst once the spring comes and the summer. Chicago is one of the best cities to live in anywhere in the world, from what I've been told by others who have traveled extensively and from where I've been. It is incredible dining, incredible beaches, incredible street festivals, incredible Navy Pier, boating, biking, running, kayaking. I mean, it's really incredible in the summertime. There's so much to do, you can barely fit it all in. So then the fall winter hits, but overall Chicago has extremely affordable housing compared to other big cities, New York, Boston, LA. Chicago is lower in what it costs to buy a house. This is another home that's been sitting on the market for quite a while. It doesn't to rent a house, food, eating out. It's just a less expensive city overall than a lot of cities in the United States. The other thing about Chicago is the dining opportunities are amazing. So a huge variety. I mean, you have your Chicago pizza, your Chicago hot dogs. You can go get yelled at the Wiener Circle, which is pretty famous place.
Put it in, Chief-Ass. This one? Yeah, this one.
And you can do all these fun kind of Chicago things. But as far as fusion restaurants, Chinese, Thai, Indian, Italian, there's just some tremendous restaurants. There's one downtown that is a smaller place that is regarded as one of the best Italian restaurants in the country. Not a very glitzy place, but Jerry Seinfeld just went there after a show. A lot of people, some that I've known and been clients, have gone there after hours. He kind of lets you in the back door and will feed you. Kind of cool stuff. Chicago has just incredible dining. As far as working out goes, I've been here my whole life, ran track in college here, and ran my whole life and biked and did triathlons and trained. And the biking, the running, the swimming opportunities in the lake and out of the lake are just tremendous, along with Chicago Triathlon, Chicago Marathon. There's Bike to Drive, where they shut down Lakeshore Drive all along the lakefront, and you can bike that once a year. Very, very cool. This is Lakeshore Drive. Just beautiful summer days. The other thing about Chicago that I think from going up here is the people overall are very friendly and helpful. Chicago's a pretty darn great place. Where I've traveled to before, it's just not the same. And clients coming from other cities, they just say it's much different here, much better, as far as kind of a community feel, neighborhood feel, help your neighbor, make friends, hold the door, say hello, be friendly. Chicago's pretty great. I mean, you always got a crab here and there in any city, but overall Chicago's pretty darn great. The other thing are the schools in Chicago. There are so many good public schools, suburban and city. So many highly rated, highly sought after private schools. And then you have Loyola University. Okay, this is Loyola University's campus. From all over the country and world to go to these universities, as well as Northwestern University. So Northwestern's beautiful soccer stadium, and it's right up on the lakefront here. So these are just huge draws to Chicago. And then there's quite a few other universities, and Art Institute of Chicago, You have Second City training for comedy, where a lot of the Saturday Night Live people have gone. I mean, I'm getting kind of excited just talking about all this. I mean, Chicago is pretty great. I've always said, if I wasn't from Chicago, born and raised, this would be like the greatest city to move to or to visit. Just call, text, email if you need anything at all. Chicago is one awesome place. It just has so much to offer. It's quite incredible. The other thing about Chicago is you can take a bike ride to a lot of different neighborhoods. The bike lanes are extensive. I would recommend being careful into the more crowded areas of the city, but overall the bike lanes are pretty great. And the other thing is you have a commuter train that goes right downtown to the loop where most people work, and then you also have the L, which will take you to neighborhoods and to downtown. People take it to Wrigley Field, it's pretty easy to get around Chicago. It's in a grid. If you've ever been to Boston is insane. I was just couldn't believe how Boston was. Just like windy, and it didn't make sense to me because being from Chicago, there's a grid. So there's a street downtown that starts 2 streets, State and Madison, and then you go north from there, south, east, west, and it's very easy to keep track of things once you learn it. Being a runner and growing up in Chicago, every 4 blocks is half a mile, every 8 blocks is a mile. So you can calculate distance even very easily just in your head. The other thing you have to keep in mind about Chicago is there are so many incredible museums, world-renowned museums, plays, theater scene. It's really quite remarkable. One of my clients was the artistic director of the Goodman Theater. Had a lot of people that had some of the really kind of the music scene, some very well-known musicians and the Smashing Pumpkins and so forth, and people that really have a lot of notoriety in Chicago and are just nice people. So the other thing with Chicago is the business community is thriving. So there are extensive incubators for tech companies. There are extensive opportunities for startups. There's a great venture capital network, investment banks. Chicago's kind of a hub in the Midwest where a lot of the best and brightest coming from University of Chicago, Northwestern, University of Michigan, a lot of the big well-known universities are coming to Chicago for employment after. So it's very competitive, and when they get here, they kind of slowly but surely make Chicago their home, and just have a lot of business opportunities and networking in Chicago. The other great thing about Chicago are sports. Chicago fans are extremely intense into their sports. Right now, the Blackhawks have Connor Bedard, who was the #1 draft pick in the draft. He's absolutely killing it right now. You have the 6 championships the Bulls won. Thankfully, I was able to meet Michael Jordan once. I sold Scottie Pippen's house for him recently. But more importantly, the 6 championships and how much fun those were. The Bulls are incredibly supported team, and the Cubs winning the World Series. I was lucky enough to sell Tom Ricketts' house for him, the owner of the Cubs, and many of the players. So it's nice to combine sports and real estate. But I will tell you that you have the Cubs, White Sox, a little bit of craziness sometimes with some of the fans, because one's on the south side, White Sox, Cubs are a north side team, and the fans kind of butt heads a little bit. But overall, I think people are happy when the White Sox won the World Series, and then White Sox fans were happy when the Cubs won the World Series. Not all of them, but anyways, that's another story. But you have a tremendous WNBA team here with new ownership. You have the Chicago Fire soccer team. You have women's professional soccer. Chicago's a huge sports town. And the universities, Northwestern University was ranked as one of the top soccer team for the men, almost won the Big Ten this year. Loyola University has a great soccer team. Northwestern's going to have a great basketball team this year. The games are great to go to, a lot of fun. Loyola had a historic Final Four run. The teams have great track teams. All the sports are tremendous. Northwestern won the women's NCAA lacrosse this year. Volleyball is highly ranked. I could go on and on. But Chicago, you like sports, this is a place to be. So check it out. And living in Chicago all my life, I can tell you one of the coolest things about Chicago is growing up here, really understanding the neighborhoods, how they work, the interplay between them. There is a real serious community and vibe between neighborhoods, and takes a little while to really understand it. But if you've lived in different neighborhoods in Chicago, you really sense it. You really feel like you kind of have your group in different neighborhoods, whether it's Portage Park, Jefferson Park, Rogers Park, Roscoe Village, whatever it is. You understand the history of the neighborhoods, how things work, how people support each other. It's pretty tremendous. Chicago has great neighborhoods, great community, and some pretty cool restaurants that are supported in these neighborhoods. And if you can find them, they're like little gems, little diamonds. Call, text, email if you have any questions about Chicago, moving here, neighborhoods, housing, anything at all. No question is too small. Anytime. 773-914-0023.